Hello and welcome to another episode of Drams Delivered. This month we've got a very standout bottle, this beautiful black bottle from a distillery up in Wick. Now, what do we have here, John?
So, this is Wolfburn single malt Scotch whisky. Now, there are a number of different Wolfburn variations. There's the Aurora, which is aged in sherry casks. Langskip, which is cask strength. Northland is aged in ex-bourbon. This is Morven, which is lightly peated, so it has a little bit of smoke going on there. Now, Wolfburn Distillery itself, there are historical records of a Wolfburn distillery in Thurso as far back as 1821. So that's when the original Wolfburn would have been founded. And it did quite well for a little while. At that point, Caithness really was quite a big region in whisky making, and quite an affluent region as well. There was a lot of fish coming into Caithness and a lot of fishermen who were very thirsty as well. So it's estimated that at its peak there was roughly 5,000 bottles of whisky being drunk in Caithness every week, and the majority of that would have been produced locally. So I think it was up to about 125,000 litres per year that Wolfburn was producing, which is a considerable size, especially for a distillery back then. But they fell on hard times and they unfortunately closed towards the end of the 1800s. And it was in 2013 that the revived Wolfburn was started again. Now, the actual site of Wolfburn is slightly different to the original distillery. There are a lot of new distilleries that have been built in Scotland over the past few years that have actually used the ruins of the old distillery to build the new one. But this is on a slightly different site to the original Wolfburn distillery. Now, on the label there, you'll see a very mean-looking wolf. And this is no ordinary wolf. This is a sea wolf, which is said to bring good luck to anyone who sees it. It's a supernatural being. And at one point in time, wolves would have been very common up in Caithness, but not anymore. They're all gone.
Sadly not.
Sadly not.
Well, should we get some of this good luck juice in the glass?
Yes. Let's have a little taste.
Have a try.
And let's see what we think. Oh, good open.
Very good open. Very nice.
Lovely, nice weighty bottle as well. It is a really nice size.
Already.
Okay, here we go.
Good luck.
You spilled a wee drop there, but I'll let you off with it.
So,
Okay,
here we go.
Let's have a look.
Some peated Wolfburn.
Now, what's quite interesting is the original Wolfburn, the kind of flavours that you would have expected from that would have been more similar to this whisky than any of the others, because back then everything would have been peated. So really you're maybe tasting a little bit of what Wolfburn would have been like.
Yeah. Now, just looking at it as well, I mean, this is from, as John said, 2013 was when Wolfburn opened. So this is quite young whisky. I'm not exactly sure how old it is. Non-age statement, so that means there is not an actual age on the bottle. We do know it's more than 3 years old to be called Scotch, but we're not sure how old. But one thing I hope you've learned maybe through Drams Delivered is that age is just a number. And just because it's young whisky doesn't necessarily mean to judge it as it's not going to be great. Actually, young and peated actually goes very, very well together, because when you age whisky in a cask, it starts to lose its smokiness or peated flavour and takes on more character from the cask itself. So if you like this kind of peated style of whisky, young whiskies have that more sort of vibrant peat kind of flavour going on. Colour-wise, it's kind of like a pale straw kind of look to it. Mm-hmm. Really sort of light and delicate. Let's have a wee smell.
Yeah, you get that sort of peaty hit straight away, but there's also quite a lot of bready notes. It's quite malty, a little bit of vanilla, which would make me assume that it's probably been matured in ex-bourbon.
Yeah. What strength are we at? 40?
So it's 46%,
Nice.
and it's also bottled without any colouring, and it's not chill filtered either. So they should have a really nice mouthfeel. Let's have a try.
Yeah, it's lovely. Very fresh. It's got that fresh peat to it.
Yeah, it does.
And what John touched on there, natural colour and non-chill filtered, that's two things we talk about quite a lot and it's things that we feel quite passionate about. So natural colour, as the name suggests, means there's no colouring being added to this whisky. Now, we feel there shouldn't be colour added to any whisky, but the way it works in the whisky making game is that there's actually 4 ingredients, not 3. So there's barley, water and yeast, but distilleries can add a 4th ingredient, caramel colouring, or E150, and it just darkens the whisky. Now, they argue that that's for consistency, so that all the bottles look the same on the shelf, but our view is that actually that's to make the whisky look darker, older, maybe more appealing, and it kind of tricks your eyes into thinking this whisky's older. Now, I don't believe they should be allowed to do that. I don't think it's a good thing. They say it doesn't affect flavour, but you're adding something, so it's got to affect flavour. But I could go on all day about my feelings on that. But the other thing you mentioned there was non-chill filtration.
Yes, so with colouring, where you're adding something to the whisky, with chill filtration, you're actually taking something out. And the argument is that it doesn't change the flavour. Now, what you're doing when you chill filter a whisky, you chill it down to very close to 0 and you pass it through a very fine mesh filter. Now, if you've ever seen olive oil on a cold day, it sort of gets cloudy. A lot of the natural oils and fats in the olive oil just sort of clump up together and not turn solid. That same thing happens in whisky. Whisky can throw a haze, it can become cloudy, and passing it through a filter at a low temperature just removes all of that. Now, does it remove flavour? Arguably no, but what it does remove is the carriers of flavour. It removes the thickness of the whisky. And when you try a whisky that's been chill filtered next to one that hasn't been, you will notice a vast difference. If it's been chill filtered, it's likely to just be up over your tongue and leave almost no finish. But if you try one that hasn't been chill filtered, it leaves a lot of flavour on your palate. The mouthfeel is different, isn't it? And the mouthfeel is a lot thicker, and it's a more natural form of whisky. Whatever you do to it, it's going to change the flavour, the texture of the whisky. So to say it has no effect is not really fair. And whiskies that do have non-chill filtered and natural colour on the label on the front, to me, are certainly ones that I'm more drawn to.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that when I first heard that and was like, well, why would anyone do it? And the reason they chill filter is because whiskey's drunk around the world, and Scotch on the rocks is a very popular drink. And if you put whiskey that's less than 46% and it's not been chill filtered over ice, it will go cloudy and murky, and kind of like that olive oil that John was explaining. So that whiskey on the rocks will be sent back to the bartender saying there's something wrong with my Scotch. He pours another one, same thing happens. So a lot of the big companies in the whiskey world will chill filter, so that if the whiskey is used in cold drinks or old fashions or cocktails or whatever it is, there's no risk of that going murky or cloudy. But from a whiskey fan's point of view, as John says, if you're taking something out, we feel you're removing flavour. So big up to Wolfburn, fair play to them. The whiskey is young, it's vibrant, it's fresh. I think there's going to be really good things coming out in later years. They're doing all the right things as far as we're concerned. So yeah, hopefully we've introduced you to Wolfburn. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next month for some more whiskey. Cheers. Cheers.